What is going on, everyone? My name's Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video, and today it's the weekly Game Week preview series for Game Week 6, obviously. Not necessarily strictly speaking about my team for this one, but going through some of the key talking points and questions that you guys have put to me. So for example, in this one we've got Mount's injury, people looking to get off premium defenders, and should we go cheap at the back now? And obviously we'll have a look at captaincy as well and see who's possibly the best pick to go for there. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe if you're new around here, and let's jump into it. So first of all, let's talk about no Liverpool attack. Quite a few people tweeted me about this, and I see lots of discussions going on in the community talking about maybe getting rid of Salah and Mane to go to the likes of Aubameyang and Son and options like that. So I don't think it's necessarily the worst idea in the world, but obviously it is a little bit of a risk to get rid of these players if that's the kind of way that you want to play. We know that Mane and Salah are really high owned, especially Salah. He's on 42.5%, and I wouldn't expect that to drop anytime soon. And let's remember, when we talk about form, Mane's already chipped in with points, and Salah's only blanked once this season. And you could look at the fixtures and think that they're going to, cause issues to Liverpool. But this is one team like Man City that you would expect to score goals most weeks against most teams. Obviously, there are going to be those slip-ups here and there and those difficulties of scoring like we saw Man City have against Norwich. But let's not forget, with that match in particular, that Norwich still had very few chances compared to Man City. Obviously, they took them well, not taking anything away from Norwich. They played out from the back. They did really, really well. But Man City still had a hell of a lot of shots, like they've done in every single game so far. And Liverpool are pretty much the same. They shoot a lot, not maybe as much as Man City. And I'd expect that to continue as they play whichever team it might be. And if you look at the upcoming fixtures, yes, they got United, Spurs and Man City coming up in kind of the space of 4 game weeks. But before that, you got Chelsea away, who are shipping goals for fun. They're doing really well at scoring goals, not necessarily restricting them. They have gone to kind of 3 at the back now, 3 centre-backs, which may make them more sturdy at the back. But with Rudiger possibly still out and Kante not quite back yet, we'll have to see how he does or when he comes back. I expect goals in that match, even though it is away for Liverpool. Sheffield United away, they've actually been okay defensively, but again, I'd see Liverpool breaking them down. Then Leicester at home, a home game at Anfield is always going to be good for Liverpool. So I don't think the next 3 are that tricky, but then it is Man United away, Spurs at home, Aston Villa away and Man City at home. So that does get a bit trickier. And I would worry about that there. So I suppose the other options that you could consider, you've got Son, who's just done really well against Crystal Palace, and got rested midweek for the Champions League as well. So he could be a really good option, and Spurs fixtures are pretty good. And he also save you some money, so that's something to consider when you think about this as well. What can you do with that extra money that you save by taking one of these players out? So ultimately, I would say I don't really like using the word risk, but it is a little bit of a risk taking them out because they're highly owned. If they continue to do the business and the player you don't bring in doesn't do as well, obviously you're going to fall behind quite quickly. You've also got, not to forget, someone like Aubameyang, who also hasn't blanked at all this season yet. So Salah's blanked once, Aubameyang's actually blanked no time so far. And he's got really good fixtures coming up. Villa at home, then I think it's Man United away, which isn't great. Then the fixtures are pretty good for a good few game weeks for Arsenal. So you could bet on him. With Lacazette out, he's playing centrally, penalties as well. He could be a really good bet. And like I say, you save 1.5 million, which you could maybe put into your team elsewhere. Maybe if you're looking to get that cheap striker in. So I'm not really looking to get rid of Liverpool attacks. I just expect them to be good throughout the season. I don't think it's the worst idea if you want to do something different and bring in the likes of Son, Aubameyang, Aguero, whoever it might be. So a lot of people are suddenly looking at getting rid of premium defenders, and probably with good reason given how many clean sheets and attacking returns that some of them have got so far. Maybe not good enough for the price they've got, and obviously last year we saw cheap forwards not do very well at all. They did for a little part, but for the most part, going premium at the back probably would have worked out better. This year, though, suddenly there's loads of attackers that are doing really well. And I've seen quite a few tweets saying, if you look at the top scorers, most of them are forwards, midfielders as well. There's not really many defenders in the top part of the point scoring. But one thing to remember is not many of those forwards are kind of under 7 million. So a lot of them, you've got the likes of Pukki's over 7 million now, Aubameyang doing well, but they're all quite highly priced as well. So obviously, yes, they're the top scorers, but you're paying for that as well. So I don't think premium defenders are dead just yet. But should you have kind of 4 or 5 at the back? I think 5 at the back is done, to be completely honest. I'm not really sure if it was the best option to go from the start anyway. It's just too much risk involved with the amount of points they're getting currently. 4 at the back is what I'm on, and I'm even looking to shift off that. Will the clean sheets come? I'm sure they will at some point. I don't see the likes of Man City and Liverpool going the whole season and being as maybe poor as they've been with clean sheets so far. You can maybe class it a little bit unlucky. I'm not beating myself up at making the decision from the start. weren't expecting Alisson to get injured. Now Laporte's injured for Man City. Stones is out for Man City as well. So it is a bit of a worry. Adrian is okay for Liverpool, but he's not as good as Alisson. So that is a bit of a worry, and it looks like Alisson's going to be out for a while. So we'll have to wait and see when he comes back. When he does, maybe Liverpool defence will be better. But I've basically got 4 right now. Lucas Digne, who I'm okay with. I'm okay with keeping him. I think he's got a couple of clean sheets, a couple of assists in the opening 5. That's 4 returns in 5 games. I can't really knock that too much. Robertson finally picked up an assist, but another game where they didn't get a clean sheet. And again, I do feel they've been a bit unlucky maybe. Pretty decent goal by Newcastle, but didn't cause too much threat outside that. And throughout the season, I think if they played these 5 games again, I think they'd probably get 1 or 2 extra clean sheets. But it doesn't matter at this point. Those points have gone. I guess the question is, when will they come good? And that's the problem I have. I don't want to wait around. Liverpool's fixtures, like I said, yes, they're pretty good for the likes of Salah and Mane. I don't know if they're as good for clean sheets. I've got Van Dijk and Robertson. I think if you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, he looks really good. Both the fullbacks look really attacking. I think Trent definitely slightly more. So if you've got him, no panic. I just don't think 4 or 5 at the back works right now. I think moving to 3 at the back and going for the cheaper forwards right now is the play to make. It's the play that I'm looking at. But it's not to say that has to stay forever. Maybe these cheap forwards will eventually start performing badly, and maybe when the fixtures turn a bit more for Liverpool, when Man City maybe get Laporte back eventually, although it is going to be a little while, maybe we can then start looking at the defence again. So I've got Zinchenko still. I see the fixtures and I think surely there's some clean sheets there, and I might hold out for 1 more week and see how they do without him, because it'll be interesting to see how they play with no Stones and Laporte. Will Fernandinho play there? Will Walker play there? I saw on Twitter just a minute ago, I'm recording this actually during the Champions League matches, so not quite sure what's happening there, but I saw that Walker was maybe having a little bit of a niggle and that Cancelo was warming up, so we'll have to see what happens there. So there's lots and lots to consider, but yeah, I think big at the back. No premium defenders. I wouldn't go no premium defenders. I think they're offering a bit of value. And because there's so many value forwards and midfielders as well, it is quite easy to fit in a couple of premium defenders. So don't knock them all straight away. But if you've got a wild card in your back pocket like me, then I am thinking of moving off. And if eventually I need to go back to it, then I absolutely can. So keep a few of them. But I think 4 or 5 at the back is probably done for at the moment. So Game Week 6 captain is interesting this week because the standout is probably what a lot of us would have thought would be Man City, because Watford hadn't been getting many points on the board in the Premier League. I've said this quite a few times already, but if you look at the underlying stats, Watford have been okay. They've been kind of middle of the ground in terms of shots they're taking, shots conceded and stuff like that. So you've probably heard me say that before. So they've not been awful. Maybe the amount of points they've got in the league so far is not representative of how well they've done. But at the same time, you still expect Man City to go there and do well. Arsenal scored 2 early on, should have put that game to bed and didn't. You'd expect Man City to do it. And also, they're going to be almost like a wounded animal after losing to Norwich. You'd expect Pep to come out. Obviously, he's going to want to win. He wants to win every single match. He wants to score goals every match. But you'd feel like the players will want to kind of get back into winning form in this match. And I don't know if Watford's defence will be able to handle them. Aguero didn't start a Champions League game, which is pretty nice for owners. I actually think he's probably the standout captain option this week now because of that. Sterling, look, a lot of people are worrying about a rest for him. I think people are going to worry about that rest every single week until it happens. Sterling is so integral to that Man City team. I wouldn't see him being benched too often. We saw De Bruyne get benched against Norwich. So there's always a chance it could happen to Sterling. I think people kind of saying, well, they're 5 points behind Liverpool and stuff now. And I've probably said that myself. But realistically, they were behind already and they benched De Bruyne against Norwich. So I think when you're fighting on so many fronts in terms of cups and stuff, they're going to rotate a bit. So I think Sterling's still a good option. He's actually my captain right now. But if you've got Aguero, you have to be looking at him after a blank. Aubameyang versus Villa, like I've already said in the video, hasn't blanked so far. Villa actually kept another clean sheet last week, but they are conceding quite a few shots, and eventually I think someone's going to put like 3 or 4 goals against them soon, and could be Arsenal. I think Arsenal look pretty shoddy at the back, but going forward decent enough, and with Aubameyang there's always going to be goals. So I think Aubameyang's a pretty decent option if you've got him. Now, whether those two are better than the Liverpool boys, I think just because that Liverpool game is away, that would probably put me off a little bit captain, though. I think seeing a few tweets now where those that have kind of got it wrong between Salah and Sterling, myself included, those that have captained the one at home have done really well. So home form is probably where it's at with captains. So that's what would put me off Mane and Salah. That being said, Chelsea are conceding a lot of goals this season, so I don't even think that's a bad choice. And I put Pukki on because I feel like he's earned it. Away to Burnley, that's not really a fixture I would usually like to captain someone in. And as a Nick Pope owner, I would usually expect a clean sheet in that fixture, but because Norwich have been so good, I'm starting to wonder whether Pukki is just the go-to captain. If you've captained so far all of this season, you've been doing pretty well. But for me, I think Aguero is the best. I still think Sterling's going to do well, and Aubameyang close behind. I would probably put Salah and Mane maybe even third behind all those players, third or fourth. Just because it's an away game. But if Rudiger's out again, if Kante's out again, then you'd expect Liverpool to score a couple in that one. So Salah and Mane could also be good shots. So I'm sitting on the fence a bit. I'm going to captain Sterling. I'd like to have Aguero this week. I think Aubameyang will be decent. I'm going to ignore the Liverpool boys, and they'll probably really punish me. So just a few other bits to go through, starting with Mason Mount, potentially injured, potentially out for a little while, but we don't know yet. He kind of himself said it's going to be okay. I've seen the videos, I've seen the pictures. I'm no doctor, so I'm not even going to try and give you a diagnosis. But it did look bad. You see his leg bend so much. That can't be good for a player. If he's not broken anything, if he's not torn anything, then he could be back sooner rather than later. It's obviously Liverpool this week, so not necessarily the best fixture, although they are at home, and even though they're doing poor defensively, they are scoring goals. So I'd be pretty happy to play him this week. If he's only out for 1 week, I think you can keep him, especially if you're like me. I bought him at 6 million. He's gone up to 6.5. There's a lot of money tied up in him for a player that's done really well this year so far. And Chelsea after Liverpool fixture have really good fixtures. So I'm not really looking to offload him. It's not a move that I want to make. So wait and see what the diagnosis is. If he's out for longer than that, it might be worth getting rid and bringing him back in later on. There are obviously other options. Talking to them, I'm kind of looking at going to Cantwell as a fourth midfielder. Buendia's doing really well for Norwich as well, creating a few more chances, but Cantwell's getting a few shots in the box as well, and he's arriving at the right time, getting those tap-ins, which is really great to see. So I quite like the looks of Cantwell, and I think you save a bit of money, which you can put elsewhere into the team. If you're looking around players at the same price, you've got Daniel James, but he's potentially out for Man United. We don't know how long for. He's got a bit of a knock there. And Man United's fixtures are okay. There's nothing special about him. So I think the priority probably is to hold him if he's only got Liverpool out, and if you've got a bench option to play instead. There's the likes of Iwobi, but Everton just seems so hit and miss of whether they're going to score goals, whether he's going to fit into the team, which striker will they play, and how they all kind of integrate together. So around that price, I don't know if there is a massive standout. So I would probably drop down to Cantwell, take the money. And again, I know I speak about this a lot, but if you've got a wild card, then you can always readjust your team at some point if needed. So just because you bring Cantwell in doesn't mean you can't get rid of him later on. Cantwell, Cantwell, etc. So I think he's a good fourth mid. Premium forward, so a lot of people now obviously have seen Aubameyang's not blanked yet. He's just scored 2 goals against Watford, got Villa next. Is he a good option? And I think he is, but you've got to remember the cheap forwards are also doing really well. Abraham's scoring for fun, and he should be fine going forward. Pukki's scoring for fun as well. So that's kind of already 2 spots you've got sewn up. I know people are suddenly put off Haller because he's blanked the last game and he's got Man United next, but he could still be a good option. Don't write Barnes off just yet, etc., etc. And I think the point I'm making is cheap forwards are still scoring really well, so you can have 2 or 3 of them and not necessarily need to go up to the likes of Aubameyang. Even Firmino's doing really well for Liverpool as well. And if you're getting rid of your double Liverpool defence and you've not got Salah and Mane, maybe you've got a spot for him as well. So I do like Aubameyang. I think he's going to be really good. Aguero obviously brilliant too, but it's hard to fit them all in with Salah and Sterling if that's the way you've gone, and De Bruyne. So you might want to look at maybe Firmino or just sticking with your cheap forwards for now. And Spurs defence, a lot of people looking at them. I think even Spurs fans will struggle to tell you who's going to play. Aurier played the last game, 2 assists, 4.9 million, looks really good. Don't think he was even in the Champions League squad, so I'm not sure what's going on there. We've seen Davinson Sanchez play right back. Foyt could be back soon. Kyle Walker-Peters as well. So I think it is a bit of a risk. I may still take it because 4.9 million for a Spurs defender with their fixtures is pretty decent. It is Leicester away next. It's not necessarily the greatest fixture, but after that it gets pretty good. Otherwise, you've got Vertonghen, seems to have his place back now, 5.3 million. Could be a good option. So I think if you're moving off the premiums, like Man City, Liverpool, I'd probably be looking at Spurs. So that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. This game week preview is out every week, usually on a Wednesday. Hopefully get back to normal next week, so keep an eye out for that. If you do enjoy it, make sure to give it a like. If you've got any opinions, comments on what I've said, things I might have missed, other key topics, talking points, etc., then leave a comment below as well. Subscribe if you're new around here. Otherwise, I'll catch you in hopefully a stream this week on Thursday night or Friday night. We'll have to see how that goes. I'll put a tweet out on Twitter to let you know. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Catch you next time.